Welcome to the Writer's Journey podcast. I'm Michael Laran, a science fiction and fantasy author on a journey to go from nobody to bestseller, and I'm documenting every step of the way. Tune in every week as I pull back the curtain on my writing life and how I'm building a writing career while working a full-time job, raising a family, and attending law school classes in the evenings. You can find show notes for this week's episode, a free starter library of my fiction, and much more at michaellaran.com. Hello and welcome to episode 129. 129 is a good number, and this week is just a bread and butter Beast Mode Diaries update. Just to let you guys know how things are going with me. I confess that some things are falling by the wayside a little bit, but that's because I'm so focused on creating content that's kind of by design. So real quick in announcements, I wanted to let everybody know that I will be doing a writing sprint live stream here in the future. I'm not sure what the date will be yet, but it will be in the next couple of weeks. So the date is still to come, but you'll be able to hang out with me on my YouTube channel as I write and just take some breaks every 30 minutes or so and shoot the breeze with you guys. And it'll be an opportunity to ask me any questions that you have, opportunity for me to maybe help some of you if you are struggling with some things that you're dealing with, and maybe a way to get some words in as well. So we're going to write together, have some fun. And it was inspired by my friend Dale L. Roberts, Self-Publishing with Dale. He does this every week, and I happened to pop into one of his live streams, and I thought that it was such a great idea that I thought I would try it myself. So stay tuned, and if you are interested in joining, just be sure to follow me on my YouTube channel at authorlevelup.com, or actually youtube.com/authorlevelup. I will update my community tab over there. I'm updating that every day with Beast Mode Diaries, so to speak. So I'll let everybody know when those dates are coming, but I would look forward to hanging out with any of you if you're able to join. So it'll probably be a Saturday morning, maybe Saturday afternoon-ish. A lot of people that responded let me know that they're in the Central Time Zone or the Eastern Time Zone. I've got a few folks over in Germany and London, so we'll try to find a time that everybody can pop in if they're able. And second announcement is I wanted to let everybody know that writing app review videos are coming back to my YouTube channel. So this coming Friday, so tomorrow, when this episode goes live, I've got a review of the web-based writing app Citation. This is an app that is basically hot off the press. A few weeks ago or a few months ago, I forget now because time tends to blend together, I put out a call to action for any developers that if they had a app or service for writers that they wanted some feedback on, I would be happy to take a look at it and provide any feedback. And so I've had 2 developers, actually 4. I had 4 developers reach out to me ever since then, and these are all 4 new writing apps that are entering the space. I did a video on one of them last month, and that was really well received. And then I'm doing another video on Citation, which is going to be Friday. And then I have another one, which is another web-based writing app for an app called Skrillus. And that's another interesting app that is just hot off the press. I'll probably be one of the first people covering it. So if you like my writing app review videos, they are coming back. I have committed to reviewing every major writing app on the market by the end of 2021. So it begins. So I'm looking forward to it. So win for the week. I wanted to let you guys know that I'm close to finishing yet another book for Beast Mode. So this is the second official book that I will have finished since Beast Mode started on August 1st. So basically, I almost finished the book today, but then life got in the way. So I probably will finish this Thursday as this episode goes live, or Friday. I really only have a couple chapters left, and each chapter is only a few thousand words. So it's not going to take me that long. And that actually ties into my lesson learned this week, and I'll talk a little bit more about the book in a minute. But my lesson learned this week is this is probably the fastest book I've ever written for nonfiction. So I've been writing about 5,000 words per day, every day since I think it was last Tuesday. That's when I finished the book. So I finished my first book last Monday, I think, and then Tuesday I didn't skip a beat and picked up with this second book. and I'm just about done with the second book. And I'm not going to skip a beat because I've already got a third book lined up. And that's going to be a much shorter book. That book might only take me a couple of days to write. Maybe we'll see. Maybe it might be a little bit longer, but we'll see. So I've been sustaining 5,000 words a day without any real difficulty. So my goal so far has been to I find that I try not to hit a word count, like a strict word count quota. Because like if I say I want to hit 5,000 words per day and I hit 4,999, that doesn't feel really good, right? So I usually have a range. So my range is for this particular book is anywhere between 3,000 and 5,000. So any day I'm hitting between 3,000 and 5,000 words, that's a good day, right? And so almost every day in the time I started writing this, I've hit 5,000 words per day, and that's without breaking a sweat, So I definitely that's the fastest I've written nonfiction, and that equates to around 1.8 million words per year. If I wanted to write for an entire year at this pace, that's not something I'm planning on doing, but it's pretty cool. It's a lesson learned about myself. With this beast mode, I'm definitely pushing myself as far as I can toward the breaking point just to kind of see if I still got it. And looks like I do. So it's pretty cool. So 5,000 words per day is a pretty big number, especially when I'm only writing these books in one draft and I'm taking my time and making sure that everything is as good as it can be the first time around so it can go to the editor and then get edited. So I'm really only giving myself one bite at the apple, and so I feel pretty good about that. So idea this week was an interesting one. I happened to see an article. I don't remember where I saw it. It was about Spotify getting into the audiobook business. And there are a lot of people who are not happy about that. I personally don't think it's that big of a deal. I do worry a little bit about the way that authors will get paid under a subscription-based business model for Spotify, because if history is any guide, authors or artists haven't been paid that well for streaming, so that is a concern that I have. But they're thinking about getting into the audiobook business, and they seem to be pretty serious about it because they're doing a lot of hiring. And so there was some statistic, and I wasn't able to verify this, but it said that around 50% of all audiobook sales in the United States were physical. And I thought, physical audiobooks like CDs? And I mean, I don't think there's anyone making cassette tapes anymore, but like CD audiobooks. And I was like, that can't be right. And I wasn't able to validate that or verify it in any way. But then I started thinking, okay, just for like kicks and giggles, what would it take to create a CD audiobook of maybe some of my nonfiction? Like, how many CDs would that be? Is there such a thing as print on demand for CDs? Like, I know CreateSpace used to have an option where you could do CDs. You could do, I don't know that they allowed you to do CD audiobooks, but I know that you could do albums on CreateSpace. Now that's gone away, and KDP Print doesn't offer that. So I was looking into a few places to see, is it possible to do? How easy is it? Would it be difficult? And there would definitely be some barriers involved. I think the place that I found that was able to do it the best was CD Baby, and they will distribute your book to Amazon. But then again, there's the question of, well, if you were to create a CD audiobook through a place like CD Baby or somewhere like that, and they distribute it to Amazon, would they link up your product pages? So like, if I've got a CD, how easy is it to get it linked up to my ebook and my paperback so that it appears that there's more options? What's my cost to do this? And then, thinking about album art, like I've got to create like art for the CD and art for the album. And I mean, it's not an insignificant undertaking, but if that statistic is true, it's like, why aren't more people selling books in CD format? And I'm not convinced that number is there. But I'd be curious to get your all's thoughts if you saw that article as well, if that jumped out at you. I don't know that I believe that, but hey, we'll see. But I learned a little bit about how to create CDs. audiobook CDs. So don't know if I'll do anything with it, but it was just kind of a fun little thought experiment. So I wanted to talk about the topic of the week here. And this is really just an update on how I'm doing. A lot of things with this beast mode, I'm really focusing on the content. So I have not focused as much on business or marketing. I think that it's necessary. Like, I don't like that, but I put so much of an emphasis earlier this year on my infrastructure that the writing fell by the wayside. And so I think it's just the right thing to do to give my creativity and my creative voice that time to play and get words out onto the page, which is what I'm doing. So I will say that I have been a little bit behind on like current events and things like that, because I'm kind of like in a vacuum right now, and I'll come out of that vacuum as the days go by. But it's really important to me to get this content done. So first things first, the book I'm working on right now is it's I don't know what the title is going to be yet, but it's basically I'm code naming it Project Writing Tips. So the original name was 261 Writing Tips, and that represents the number of business days in an average year. And it's basically like a book version of my Writing Tip of the Day podcast. So I've got Writing Tip of the Day. I do writing tips every Monday through Friday, usually less than 5 minutes. So how can I take that content and repackage it and allow me to broaden my reach so that the book, in many respects, can become a calling card for Writing Tip of the Day, so that people listen to it and they're like, hey, I really like this book. Let me go subscribe to the podcast. And you listen to the podcast, hey, I got this book called Writing Tip of the Day. Instead of listening to all the backlist episodes, maybe it's easier to buy a book. So it's kind of one of those things. It's I think a very easy way to repurpose your content. Now, what I could have done with this book is I could have just reached into my pocketbook and got all of the Writing Tip of the Day episodes transcribed. I think that's what most people would do. I did not do that. I actually I used the audio as a starting point, and who knows what happens after that. So you're going to hear some things that you definitely heard on the show in the book, but you're also going to hear some new stuff too. Like, you just don't know. So some of these tips, I kind of went way deeper than I did on the show. Other times, maybe it is just the tip that I gave on the show. So it's kind of it was an interesting experiment to see what this would take. And this has taken me about 7 to 8 days so far to write, and that's pretty cool. And I think the reason I'm able to write this one so quickly is because I've already talked on the podcast about this, and I've already, before I talked on the podcast about it, I had to prep and do research. And so it's almost just like muscle memory, recalling what it was that I talked about on the show. It's really cool. And definitely it's cool that I can write this in about a week, because next year I'm going to have to do the same thing. So it'll be volume 2. So this is kind of setting the tone for how next year will work as well. So I'm almost done with that, and I'm really happy with it. I have another project. I still can't talk about it yet. It's called Project Atlas. And this is the most fiction-y nonfiction book I've written. It's going to have illustrations in it, and it is going to be probably the most different writing book that I have done. It won't be for everyone, but it will be for some people, and I think it'll be fun, and it's going to be a fun way to tackle the process of how do you learn things as an indie author? What are all the things that you have to learn? So so I won't give any more tips on that, but my illustrator is slated to get the illustrations back to me by the next episode. So by the next episode, next Thursday, I should have a pretty good idea if these illustrations are going to work, or if they're going to be a train wreck and I got to figure something else out. So if they work, you will hear me talking about it. If they don't, you guys know, you will hear me talking about it. So September 3rd is when she's supposed to have them back to me. And it probably won't be, it'll probably be a week. We'll probably have some back and forth with some revisions and things like that. But once we're done with that, it'll go to my editor, and then we'll get it out pretty quickly. And so the next project that I'm going to be working on, and this one is kind of a gimme. It's just kind of like it's something I've had on my heart for a while, and I've never penciled the time in to write it because I knew it would be a very, very short book. But I want to do it now. I think now is the right time to do it because I'm in beast mode and I know I can knock it out really quickly, especially if I'm doing 5,000 words per day. But this book I'm calling it Project Constitution, and there've been people that have come up with this in the past. So I'm not going to claim that I'm the first person to think of it. I did think of it independently, and then found out that there are people that kind of had the same thoughts, and that is a book called The Reader's Bill of Rights. So what is it that authors can do to respect their readers? What are the fundamental and inalienable rights that every reader has, that if you violate these rights, you are probably getting on readers' bad sides, and on my show Writing Tip of the Day, I actually had a week where I dedicated that to I think it was the 10 or 11 different rights that I think readers have. And I just think it's kind of a fun thought leadership project. It's honestly not going to be a very long book, but it's something that I've had on my mind for a very long time. And I've got some other thoughts on some things that authors can do to respect their readers, treat their readers right, because there's a lot of people that don't do that. And so I think that there maybe needs to be a book about it. I don't know if this book will be 5,000 words. I don't know if it'll be 10. I would be shocked if it's 15, but sometimes you sit down and you write and then your mind starts taking you places where you didn't think about going. So I'm kind of leaving the door open. My expectation is that it'll probably be short, but I'm just going to I'm going to start typing. I'm going to follow my fingers and we're going to kind of see where we end up. And then right after that, I'm not going to skip a beat. I'm going to jump into this book that I started. I think I'm like 7,000 words into it, but I just stopped. And that is The Author Income Problem. So you guys know I've talked at length about the project that I did to handle my royalties. And so I'm going to offer some thoughts about that and what I think that the industry needs to be thinking about with this. Again, it's just a pure thought leadership book. It might do better than I think, but I don't really have any expectations for it. It's just basically a chronicle. It's not a chronicle of my experience, but it's more of, okay, here's what I learned in doing this project. Here's what I learned about writers while doing this project. Here's what I learned about different constraints about doing this project, because this is one of those things where it's a problem that everyone has, but no one wants to do anything to solve it. So that'll be a fun book to write. I've got the cover picked out for that, and that's the cover art. I think is going to be kind of a funny little cover. So, but anyway, and then after that, and I might even do this next project before I do Author Income Problem. I need to do the audiobook for Mental Models for Writers. So I started it last month, and then I kind of just left it hanging. So I'm about a third of the way, I think, through it. So I need to pick that back up, and then I've got a couple more audiobook projects that I need to work on as well. So probably the last half of the beast mode won't be writing. It will instead be recording audiobooks and getting those out into the market, because I need to start bulking that part of my catalog up as well. So all said and done, I've got, let's see, that's 4 books that I'm planning on writing for beast mode. I've finished 2 of them already, or really close to finishing one of them out of the 2. And then I've got 2 other books that I think I mentioned on this show, where I don't know if I've talked about them or not, so I'll just say I've got 2 other books. So this beast mode is turning out to be really nice. My biggest problem, I think, now is going to be, what's the release schedule look like? Because, if I'm going to write like 7 books, I don't want to space those out over 7 months. I would much rather space them out over 7 weeks and then see what happens. So we'll see. That'll be an interesting experiment I have to think about. That's normally, I think, longer term than I'm thinking now, but I'm just so focused on writing that it's just kind of one of those things. But audiobooks are going to be important, because now that Spotify is getting into the audiobook business, I want to have some more products out there that I control, that we can kind of dip our toes in the water and experiment with. And also Amazon Music, I think it's going to be interesting to see how not Amazon Music, but Audible. It'll be interesting to see how Audible responds to this, because they may they may start doing some things differently as well. And so as the land starts to shift, I kind of want to be there, and I kind of want to have some projects that I can be maybe tip of the spear on. So with that, that's my updates for the week. Hope everybody's doing great. Hope that you're getting some writing in yourself. As I've said for the last 2 weeks or so, if any of you are in beast mode, if you have any questions, if I can help with your projects in any way, like I said, I can't read them, but I certainly can answer any questions that you have. Feel free to reach out. I think we've got to support each other during these times, and I'm always willing to support anyone who's willing to sit down in the chair and get manuscripts out. And I've actually heard from a few of you who have been writing a lot for this past summer and during the pandemic, and good for you if you're doing that. If you're still not in a position or a mental mindset where you feel like you can't write, just know that that's okay too. It'll come back, and I think we're all going to come back from this stronger. So with that, hope you have a great week, and I will plan on talking to you next week. Peace. Thanks for joining me this week. If you enjoyed this episode, you'll enjoy my backlist episodes at michaelaran.com/podcast. For your free starter library of my favorite novels, join my fan club by visiting michaelaran.com/fanclub. If you're a writer and want to connect with me further, check out my YouTube channel, Author Level Up, for helpful writing advice at authorlevelup.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back next week.